What's up, folks? Today we're going to talk about the guitar tone that I make for Icicle Slaughter. You may have seen the live action video that good old Zachary Spence did of this song with the two Santas fighting for the final cookie. Hilarious video. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Link is in the description. But anyway, we're going to look at that session and then we're going to dissect the guitar tone and I'm going to show you how I did it. Here we are inside Sonar. So the first thing you're going to notice is that all the guitars are quad tracked. All the red lines here. Now there's a little bit of a special secret that you need to know when you're quad tracking guitars, and that's basically the gain. I have two tracks that are panned 70% left right, and I've got two tracks that are panned 100% left right. Now if all four of these tracks had 100% gain attached to them, we're going to have a problem. It's going to get very noisy, and you're going to lose all the articulation of the riff. Now this particular riff has a lot of notey things going on. A lot of triplets and such like that. So I actually dialed down even more gain than I normally would. So when I did the 100% pan guitars, I actually have, I don't know what these are, like 30% number 3 on the lead gain. And this really helps with the clarity of the guitar while still building the guitar tone and making it sound thick. As you can see, I went ahead and used the Mercurial U530, which is still my favorite amp simulator to use. I have it coupled with their 808 version, their version of the 808. It's the TSC core. Looking at the U530, here's the placement that I have for the microphone. Now there's a couple things I want to say right off the bat. So this is my guitar bus here. So here's the track that I just clicked on, and here's the bus. You're going to see a lot of EQ and processing. I've gotten some criticisms on some other videos regarding my processing techniques, and again, I want to iterate that the EQ that you have to do for your guitar is based on your guitar and your recording chain. Now with my recording chain, with the bad electricity problems that I have a lot of extra EQ to do, and that's just the way it is for me. So you may or may not have to do just as much as I do. You will have a completely different situation. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at the settings that I used. Aside from the lead gain, let's actually look at the 70%. Aside from the lead gain, I notched my bass way down because my guitar is really bass and low mid heavy. Notch the high mids up a little bit and the treble, and bring the present up just a little bit to get more presence into the guitar tone. These are pretty much all matched, all the same, and the impulse here on the 70% is all the same. So all same locations of the impulse, and we're using the 412 Modern G12M. The next part that goes into building this tone is playing the guitar part correctly, okay? Now, I do not like editing guitars. It's boring, it pisses me off, and I think the guitars sound bad when they're slip edited and such like that. So all four of these tracks, as you can see me lining up my cursor here, they're basically right on the dot. And the reason for that is not from editing, it's from playing the riff until it sounds correct. That's what you need to do. Setting the settings and all the EQ in the world will not help a crappily played riff. So play your riff correctly. So let's actually get into the processing now. So first thing I always start off, I do pretty aggressive cuts with my low end and my high end. I am a person that believes that the bass guitar is for the bass. So I don't really care or really try to put a lot of bass into my actual guitar. That's why I have a bass guitar. See these frequencies here? Now, what I basically do the first time I open up these EQs is I do general shaping. The first things that annoy me. Okay, so let's listen to the guitars with the EQ, everything processed, everything how you heard it on the mix. And now let's go ahead and disable all the processing that I did, and now let's check out the guitars. You can hear right away all the low end, all that low mid just needs to get sucked out. There's also some high end frequencies that are really ear piercing and hurting. So we'll go one at a time here. Let's open this. Let's disable it. I'll play it and I'll enable it and disable it. You'll hear the difference. So these 4 cuts have already completely cleaned up the guitar sound quite drastically. Let's listen to it again. Disabled. So that was just the first step. Next up, we have another EQ, which again, general shaping and really getting rid of extra high end that I don't want in my guitar sound. So let's go ahead and start with this disabled, and let's continue. So you see now even more low mid being taken out, but the guitar tone still is becoming more and more clear and articulated. Moving on to the next cut that I did. Now this is a multi-band because I was having some issues in the high frequencies and I wanted to fix. Let's start with it disabled. And the reason I did that, and the difference is very subtle, is I realized it's still sort of ear piercing to me, but it was a broad range of frequencies that I wanted to bring down. So I put the multiband in here, bring down the range of frequencies, and it helps like smooth the tone out just a tad. All right, now I do even more cutting. Now the Q10 is a great plugin for just basically resonance hunting and cutting out the frequencies. Let's go ahead and A/B everything. So I'll actually start with this enabled, and I'll just enable these as we go along. So let's start. Now, for some of you, that may be really hard to hear, but there is a very clear difference. The sound just keeps getting smoother and smoother and easier to listen to. Okay, let's continue on. So the C4, this is the old trick. Actually, I'm trying to remember the guy's name right now. Andy Sneap, there we go. This is just the Andy Sneap forum trick for C4 guitars. I'm fairly certain you could probably do this with any multi-band plugin, but I have a C4, so I use C4. And what it's going to help here with the when you do the palm mutes, it's going to help squash the palm mutes a little bit, keep the level a bit more, keep the volume a bit more level, and really help with the low mid, like the boominess. So let's start with it disabled. You can clearly hear how it cleans out this area, only during the palm mutes though, so that's when it's affected the most. You're really looking at about like a -3 dB gain reduction, just a subtle amount. After that, I still heard some more of the high frequencies that really annoy me. Let's go ahead and A/B this. We'll start with it disabled. Night and day difference, in my opinion. So you hear like that whistling, like shh, it goes away after all these EQs cuts. And finally, because of all that processing, we lost like quite a bit of volume. So we need to bring the volume back up. And thankfully, the song is pretty uniform, so you can get away with a single L1 here. So let's start with the disabled, and then I'll enable it. So let's check all that out in the mix now. So now you understand what I did for processing. Let's check it out again. So you'll notice, Scott, how come the guitars sound really, really thick and awesome in the mix, but when you solo them, they sound kind of thin and wimpy? As I said, bass guitar. So I'm actually going to show you what I did with the bass guitar, because in my opinion, you have to understand how both of them work together, okay? So we've talked about the guitars. Let's look at the bass. Now, I go with a split bass EQ technique that I learned from Nail the Mix, from Joel Wanasek. He showed this on the very first Nail the Mix in November of 2015 when he was mixing Cognizance, and it's a split bass technique. What you do is, in my instance, I bounced the bass. It was from Bass of the Gods. I bounced it out, and then I duplicated it. So I have 2 tracks. I named one Sub, and I named one Grit. The point of doing this is you will process the low end and the high end of the bass differently, and then you will deal with them on the bass bus that you create that I have here. Starting with the Sub, you cut off anything in the lower mids. All of it's gone. Typically around 125. I also like to cut at the 50 hertz region. Okay, and then you just boost the crap out of it with L1. That's it. So if we listen to just the Sub, it's quite unimpressive all by itself. But now we move on to the Grit. Now the Grit actually has an extra step because there's always a really annoying, like grindy sound. It's always there. Same thing though. Q2, we're doing a high pass and a low pass filter. So 800 to start catching some of the lower mids or upper mid, whatever you want to call it. And then we cut it off at 9,000. We don't need anything higher than that. Now with the Fab filter here, let's go ahead and play this. I'll disable this and we'll A/B it. So these 2 frequencies here just happen to be in this particular bass line, but this stuff always happens. You always need to look between the 2 and basically 4K for these really annoying, crappy frequencies in the Grit track. And then the same thing with your L1. And listen to this now. Everything is good to go. Here we go. Listen to them together. So you see with this technique, by doing them separately, you can get a very big and full bass sound. I go over this in detail in another video, which you can check out. Link is in the description, or you can click the little eye thing that's going to pop up here. Next thing you want to do is you send that to a bus. You basically do a brick wall at 70 because you don't need anything from 70 lower, because this is where your bass drum is going to live. Bass drum, bass. And then guitars. You see, it's all sectioned out here. I took out a lot of low mids because I'll just show it to you. Start with it disabled. You can hear it's all boxy nastiness. Don't like it, don't want it in there, so you get rid of it. And then you L1 again to taste. And that's how I did the guitar and bass processing for Icicle Slaughter. So remember guys, a good guitar sound is 80% bass. You need to have your bass, and you need to make a space for your bass. Space for your bass, it rhymes a little bit. Anyway, the Mercurial U530 is an excellent plugin. It's what I use, it's what I love, it's how I get most of my tones. This is how I do my processing. It might seem like a lot for the uninitiated, But with the electrical situation that I have and just the recording chain that I have, this is what I have to do. But this is the sound you can achieve. And I hope you found the video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up below. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video. And please, if you have not seen Zach's video where he did a live action with two Santas fighting each other, you have to check that out. It's brilliant. It's hilarious. Please leave a comment on his video as well because he put a lot of work into it. That does it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.